I'm going to be really frank with you guys here. I'm not really going to be talking all that much about SmackDown in this review. So if you've watched it and you're expecting my detailed analysis of what happened on SmackDown this week, you're not really going to get it. Because I really want to devote this time to actually previewing and, looking at what's going to be coming up in the Royal Rumble 2014 for WWE. So if you have any comments on this week's edition of SmackDown, or more importantly, the Royal Rumble, and who's going to win the Royal Rumble this year, please let me know down in the comment section below. So in our main event on SmackDown, we had a 10-man tag with the New Age Outlaws and the Shield versus the Rhodes Brothers, Usos, and Big E. This was all pretty much done to get to the typical end-of-show Royal Rumble-style brawl where loads of people came in, and, that's the kind of image they usually end their go-home shows on to get to the actual Rumble itself. Now, but I really want to focus my points here on the pre-show match, which is the New Age Outlaws versus the Rhodes Brothers for the Tag Team Championships. Isn't it funny that on this week's edition of SmackDown, New Age Outlaws and the Rhodes Brothers are in the main event, but they are in the pre-show on the pay-per-view? I really thought a match like this, especially with the New Age Outlaws in there and the Tag Team Championships being in there, and WWE wanting more focus on the Tag Team division, I'd have thought they'd have put this on the card. I really would. I would have thought this would have been a good match to put on the card. Could this be where the Rhodes Brothers split up and maybe the Usos get a program against the New Age Outlaws and then you have Cody Rhodes and Goldust go against each other? Who really knows? I think the Rhodes Brothers will win here, but I wouldn't be surprised if the New Age Outlaws win here and then they tease some tension between the Rhodes Brothers possibly going into WrestleMania, because the Rhodes Brothers have been very good as a tag team, but it's become very apparent, really, to me, that Goldust is kind of outperforming Cody Rhodes and is way more over than Cody Rhodes. So maybe it's about time that WWE got a little bit more going in the direction for Cody Rhodes and maybe gave him a win over his brother, who has had a massive resurgence, so will be, a legit opponent for a guy like Cody Rhodes now. Maybe give him a win at WrestleMania over Goldust. But we don't really know. That's just kind of the direction I see WWE going into WrestleMania. One person I do hope has a good showing at the Royal Rumble is Roman Reigns. I think it's very obvious that WWE really want to push Roman Reigns, and he does have the look of a guy that could be some kind of star for WWE in the future. As being part of the Shield and breaking off the Shield at some point. And I do wonder if Royal Rumble will be the catalyst to Roman Reigns actually breaking away from the Shield. I do think it would be a good idea if you have him use his spear and Superman punch and have him eliminate a lot of people. Maybe not as many as Kane, maybe not 11. Maybe have him eliminate 7, 8 people, and then maybe towards the end of the Rumble, when the Shield have, teamed up together and actually got far in the Rumble, maybe then have him eliminate Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose or something like that, and then that's where you can facilitate some kind of babyface turn. But I think the Royal Rumble will be a very important pay-per-view for a guy like Roman Reigns. And another person I feel will really need to benefit from this Royal Rumble is Big E Langston. He's currently the Intercontinental Champion. He doesn't really have a feud right now, but I imagine he's going to be in the Royal Rumble. And a guy like Big E Langston, much like Ryback last year, is a guy you really want to showcase at the show and have him, set him up for something big. Maybe give him some kind of big spot in the match, maybe some sort of holy shit spot or something. Maybe have him eliminate 5 to 6 people and maybe go half an hour in the Royal Rumble. I think Roman Reigns and Big E Langston are two guys in the WWE that they really need to showcase at this year's Royal Rumble, as this could be, like I said, a real catalyst for guys like Roman Reigns and Big E Langston to perhaps have a bigger WrestleMania moment and perhaps come stars for the company maybe in the summer or in the early parts of 2015. So one of many tag matches we had on this show, it seemed like a fucking tag match themed SmackDown this did, was the Wyatt family versus the Primetime Players. The Wyatt family get the victory over Primetime Players, as they should, and this led to a promo segment between Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt being in the ring and Daniel Bryan being on the ramp. Typical go-home show stuff. As for the match between Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt, I really like the idea of Daniel Bryan going up against Bray Wyatt. I think this is a very good clash of characters which would do well in the feud. I just have a problem with the way WWE have done this over this last month or so going into Royal Rumble. I mean, we have Daniel Bryan fighting against the Wyatt family for quite a number of weeks. Then he joins the Wyatt family because, in his own words, he wanted to infiltrate the Messiah and all that kind of stuff. You know what I say, he did the explanation on Raw, which is fine and good. But he joined the Wyatt family only to turn on them a few weeks later. And we know why WWE have done this. We know why WWE have rushed this, because of what happened in Michigan State with all the crowd doing the yes chants. Vince McMahon is thinking, I've got something that is spreading here with the yes chants, so I really should pull the plug on this storyline. And it really does beg to differ. Why the hell they put him in the Wyatt family in the first place? They put him in a position where he probably wouldn't be getting cheered, and the reactions were dwindling for Daniel Bryan. So this is an example, in my opinion, of one of Vince's stupid-ass ideas, with a superstar like Daniel Bryan. But at the same time, I do applaud WWE for having the balls to pull the plug when they knew they got it wrong. I mean, they didn't actually spread this out like TNA did with like the Aces and Eights, for example, when they knew that was going wrong. After 2 weeks, they pulled the plug, and Daniel Bryan is still over. Thank God. So I will thank WWE for pulling the plug on this storyline, or for pulling the plug on Daniel Bryan joining the Wyatt family, even though, in my opinion, it should never have fucking happened in the first place. As for Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt, I think Daniel Bryan wins this one. I'm not sure how you can really halt his steam. I mean, he's had loads of losses to Randy Orton. It's about time you build Daniel Bryan back up again. Maybe a win over Bray Wyatt would really do WrestleMania, WrestleMania future a damn amount of good here. Even though apparently WWE have got him in to face Sheamus. We'll have to see where WWE go with that one, eh? Third WrestleMania in a row, I believe that would be. Or 27, 28, and then 30. The tag team theme continued on this week's edition of SmackDown. We had the Big Show and Rey Mysterio versus the Real Americans. This was really there to give Big Show and Rey Mysterio a win before Royal Rumble, and was pretty much there to get to a Paul Heyman promo. We all know how much of a damn good talker he is. Typical go-home show stuff, as we know. As for Big Show versus Brock Lesnar, I can't help but feel that a match against Big Show is kind of wasted, in my opinion, because Brock Lesnar, you really want to give him big matches whenever he's in the WWE because of his short-term contract. One of them is against Big Show. And I really don't have that much interest going into this. I mean, they tried to make Big Show look like he can be on the same level as Brock Lesnar. But at the end of the day, I just can't understand why WWE are making one of their most legit wrestlers, like Brock Lesnar, who was a former UFC World Champion, look like a bitch against Big Show. It's not really going to do himself good going into WrestleMania, who I'm guessing is going to be in one of the bigger matches on WrestleMania. In my opinion, even though Brock Lesnar has looked like a bitch, he has to win this one. There's no way Big Show can beat Brock Lesnar, and this will lead to hopefully a way more interesting match for Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30. Because this one I really don't have that much interest in, unless the ring breaks or something, which won't happen because I'll have the Royal Rumble afterwards. So that ain't gonna fucking happen. No point in getting your hopes up. Now time for the segment where I talk about some random stuff on this week's edition of SmackDown, which doesn't really pertain to the Royal Rumble at all. We had Los Matadores lose to Ryback. What the fuck ever happened to the push that the Los Matadores were supposed to be getting with El Torifo? Just saying. Miz beat Brodus Clay. I'm not sure why Miz is still a babyface. I don't know why they turned Brodus Clay heel. It just seems like ever since they turned him heel, he's just gone off the paycheck. That's just how it feels to me. Like Brodus Clay is just he's just there. When really, after the storyline they did, which they cultivated for a number of weeks, maybe months, probably should have done something with him as they turned him heel, and they probably should have given some kind of push. I don't know. Also, the Evolution is still happening on SmackDown, which is I will always like, because guys, I love the NXT Divas, especially Emma. Randy Orton versus John Cena for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I wasn't really interested in the match they had at TLC, so I'm not really going to be all that interested in the match that they're going to be having at Royal Rumble. Once again, it's Randy Orton versus John Cena. Oh, the two top guys in the WWE fighting for the WWE Championship. That's, same old shit, really, isn't it? Let's face it. As for the finish of the show on Raw, which really pertained around this feud, god damn, it was lame. It was not just the fact that, John Cena came in about 3 minutes before the end of the show, and, you contrast this with the way the show started with Batista's return and 3 members of Evolution being there, and then they fighted in the crowd, and then Orton got in the car and then gets away, and it just left the ending of the show feeling very lackluster, almost like WWE had 5 minutes of dead air to kill, so they just showed John Cena slapping hands with fans. It wasn't really like the big ending of Raw that you'd usually expect going into a big show like Royal Rumble. Instead, they decided to transfer that over to SmackDown by doing that typical Royal Rumble, everyone brawling in the ring finish for CM Punk to come out and kind of be the spotlight of it all. They just did that. And I do wonder, with these two being like the top dogs in WWE right now, will this main event or will the Royal Rumble main event? Now, I kind of hope the Royal Rumble main events, because I care a lot more about the Royal Rumble than I do Randy Orton versus John Cena. But you've got to ask yourself, which match will sell more tickets? Is it Randy Orton versus John Cena or the Royal Rumble? And I personally think it's the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is always the main draw of the show that is called the Royal Rumble, in my opinion. So, Orton versus Cena, I can only see Orton winning this one. I'm not sure there's much point in putting the belt on Cena right now. I really don't, as I feel that Batista is going to be winning the Royal Rumble. More on that later. So you may as well have Randy Orton keep the belt. They've already kind of teased something between Orton and Batista. So I don't see Cena winning the belt here, personally. Now it's time to talk about the Royal Rumble match itself. And this is where I want your input. Firstly, we want to talk about surprise entrance. You've got people like Sheamus, RVD, possibly Chris Jericho. Christian has been out for a long time. Jake the Snake made an appearance on Old School, or maybe he's going to be in the Rumble. So you got all these, possible surprise entrants, and it's like WWE haven't really announced that many people that are going into the Rumble, so we could have quite a lot of surprise entrants. Who do you feel will be some of the surprise entrances, and who would you like to see as a surprise entrance in the Royal Rumble? Maybe Ultimate Warrior will make an appearance in the Royal Rumble. We don't know. As for who will win the Royal Rumble, there's only really 2, maybe 3 people I could see winning the Royal Rumble. And then, analysing it, I only see one person winning this year's Royal Rumble. As we saw on Raw this week, Batista returned to open the show with Orton and Triple H, and we had that thing between him and Orton, which seemed like they were teasing something between them two, possibly for WrestleMania, and he owned Del Rio as well, as we kind of expected him to do. It's kind of interesting, actually, that the rating at the start of the show, where Batista was, skyrocketed, and at the end of the show, where Cena and Orton were, it dropped by 900,000 viewers. But the show itself got the best rating since March 2013 at a 3.5. But to be honest, the fact that Batista made, was such a draw in the opener, along with Triple H and Orton, of course, and Orton and Cena really weren't that big of a draw in the main event, as they lost 900,000 viewers, really does show to me that Batista is somewhat of a draw, especially on his return. And I think with the fact that he's only just returned and it's his first match back, and they kind of teased something between him and Orton with the Evolution stuff, I think he will win the Rumble personally. I think he is definitely the favourite to win the Royal Rumble. As let's face it, Batista is at least some kind of mainstream star that you can put in a big match at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. Sometimes something I think the next 2 people I'm going to talk about really don't have all that much. The only other person I can see possibly winning the Royal Rumble is CM Punk. He has a storyline with the Authority, and more specifically Triple H right now, which I imagine will go into WrestleMania. But it would be good if CM Punk did actually go all the way and won from number 1. I mean, he hasn't won the Rumble, and if he goes from 1 to winning it, that will do wonders in making him, a star in the WWE. But he's one of the only people so far also that has actually even mentioned the Royal Rumble properly. I mean, on this go-home show, he was talking about how he wants to defeat the Authority and how he's never won the Rumble and wants to prove the Authority wrong. So he has this storyline. He's one of the only people in the Rumble with some kind of storyline going for him. So I don't see CM Punk winning the Royal Rumble, but he's the only person I could logically see possibly winning it, even though I think that the whole Authority thing is going to be going for a match between him and Triple H. But you never know. This Authority storyline could, go between him and Orton going into WrestleMania. We don't really know. And, CM Punk's story is semi-interesting. He wants to defeat the Authority. He's never won the Royal Rumble before. That's an interesting story for a character like CM Punk, who is essentially one of the biggest stars in WWE. Even though I feel the Royal Rumble will definitely be Batista this year. CM Punk is an outsider. Another outsider is Daniel Bryan. I just think the idea of Daniel Bryan winning the Rumble, especially when they're trying to make this guy into a main event star, is a good idea. Even though it doesn't even look like he's going to be in the Rumble this year because he's having that feud with Bray Wyatt. Going into WrestleMania, I don't see WWE putting him in a big match. I just don't see it. Even though he's the most over guy in the company, is he a guy in the company that's going to sell massive amounts of tickets and pay-per-view buys ahead of guys like Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Hulk Hogan if he's going to be on the show, even guys like CM Punk? And Batista, etc. Is he going to sell as many tickets as guys like that? No. So I'm just going to put it out there right now. He's not going to be in a massive match at WrestleMania. Even just because you're the most over guy, it doesn't mean you should be in the main event of WrestleMania. Just like we had The Rock and Cena before. Cena is not exactly the most over guy, but he sells the most tickets for the company as a 24/7 roster guy. So he's going to be in the main event. Maybe not this year, but when he was against The Rock, he was. So it's interesting, actually, going on the road to WrestleMania, especially when you approach the Rumble, it'll be interesting to see what plans WWE lay out for people like Daniel Bryan, for people like CM Punk, who they really do need to do a good job in getting over, as they are going to be the big stars who are at the company 24/7 when the guys like Batista, when the RVDs, when the Jerichos, etc., when the Batistas aren't going to be there in the RVD. So they really do need to put a little bit of focus and put CM Punk in a semi-big match on the pay-per-view, perhaps against Triple H. Put Daniel Bryan in some sort of big match. Some have been saying he may face Shawn Michaels. I don't know. But as for this overall edition of SmackDown, like I said, I didn't really watch all that much of it. I was more focused on, the go-home show hype, and I was more focused on the Royal Rumble, and the pay-per-view itself. But, we've got some decent matches. The pre-show match could be decent. Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan has a little bit of intrigue around it. Big Show and Brock Lesnar. Orton versus Cena, but they could probably both be good matches and assets to this card in some way. The big thing about this will be the Royal Rumble and how good that is, how many, if we get any surprise entrants, any storylines going in, what are they going to do from the Royal Rumble and how are they going to hype up some matches going into Elimination Chamber and onwards to WrestleMania perhaps. So all these things will pertain as to how good Royal Rumble is as a show, which is essentially going to start the road to WrestleMania, which is one of the most exciting, which is the most exciting period, perhaps, for wrestling fans all over the world. If you have any comments on this week's edition of SmackDown, or going into the Royal Rumble, or anything that I've said in this review, please let me know down in the comment section below. I've been Mr. Parkin. I may do a review on Royal Rumble with MJ. It just depends if I'm not tired or if I really want to watch the show or if it's any good. If it's a good show or I feel it's a good show, I'll do some kind of review on it. If not, I'll just touch on it in next week's SmackDown review and do a half and half with the show. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video if you have. I know it's been a long one, but I had a lot of things I wanted to get off my chest about Raw, SmackDown, and going into Royal Rumble. See you later, guys.